Greetings. Welcome to Abner Gamer. If you like comics, you like anime, you like games, then this is definitely the channel for you. We're continuing our focus on Marvel's Avengers, and today we're going to focus on Thor. This is in the comic builds. So sit tight. This should give you some survivability and some damage and allow you to keep that comic book theme going. Okay, so Thor is a bit of a tricky proposition. This is because there's a lot of different routes you can go with this character. It's probably why a lot of people like him, because he's so versatile. However, we're focusing on comic book builds and builds that are viable for late to end game content. So as you see, we're doing a Tachyon Rift. We're going to put this on challenge 4 to up the difficulty, so you can see how he fares against plus 10 mobs or baddies with shield generators. What I essentially did was I built the comic book Thor. So people probably notice I'm wearing the classic comic book garb, his original outfit, and here are his stats. So he's got 266 might. He's the mighty Thor. And I realize a lot of people are going over 300 might. What you have to understand is you only have 700 points to work with. Give or take a few points depending on your gear. So you have 7 stats over there. So that's basically 100 points per stat. If you put 300 in might, that leaves you 300 left. And you still have to have Valor, you still have to have some resolve or proficiency or whatever else you want. So we went 266 might. I have 0 precision. I have 52 proficiency, so 16% crit chance. My Valor is 149. Thor scales Valor really well. So with 149 points in there, I'm 225% crit damage. Also, my heroic rating is 5400. I realize people are at 6, 7, 8, 10k. I've even seen one guy 15k. But you're going to die though. My resolve is 145. This is just over 1600 health points. But I have 102 resilience, or about 29% armor. So you're protecting that health. Do not forsake your resilience. If you have just a bunch of resolve with no resilience, you're just a big health pool that's going to get cut into. I don't have any intensity, and that's not by design. I mean, it's just how it ended up with the gear. So, the gear pieces we got. I'm using Hive Mind's Edge. Anybody can get this. I got this from the Weekly Hive. It was the first drop I got. You see signature attacks, I'm doing particle. The power attacks, I'm doing particle. And that's huge for Thor. You need his signature and his power attacks to be extremely well, and they need to emanate some type of status damage. He's already going to do lightning, so complementing that with a positive type like particle, cosmic, or plasma will only increase your damage potential. On this particular piece of gear, I got to increase the amount of particle damage dealt with any attack by 20%. Now, this works in perfect conjunction with the Belt of the Thunderer. The Belt of the Thunderer does 20% increase to any shock attack for anything. And since almost all your attacks are dealing off shock damage, this is a cornerstone piece. It also increases all damage while overcharged by 20%. The 56 might and 52 proficiency is also very good. This is where I get my proficiency from. The other cornerstone piece, these are the 2 main cornerstone pieces here, is the breastplate of the All-Father. Now, this is a must-have for any Thor users. I don't care how you're building it. Not only does it have good resilience and resolve, survivable stats, which you're going to need some of, it also gives you 200% increased willpower recovery when Odin Force is active, and it reduces the intrinsic energy cost while suffering guard breaks. This is huge. You can keep your Odin Force, and when you're activating your Odin Force, you get 200% increased willpower recovery. This is how you sustain yourself. Every time I hit that Odin Force, that R trigger, and I smack somebody with the hammer, I'm topping myself back on health. And using power attacks, it gives you even that much more health. So the hammer I'm using is a targeted protection grip. 57 might, 52 valor. It does have a damage buff, but the damage buff is triggered by killing a pinned enemy. So it's a 24% chance. That's not a bad proc. And it gives you ranged power attacks, shock damage, and a 50% chance of hitting an enemy with the ranged critical attack gives you a defense buff. So it's giving you damage, defense, and it's giving you ranged power attacks here. So let's go ahead and move in here and see what he looks like. Really fast, this is your build. Obviously, you take your 50 points, you spin them across the board in your primary. In your specialty, this is what you pick. So you take your Mirror's Wrath, so nearby teammates will get 25% increased damage while your Warrior's Fury is active. This is a buff for everybody. It doesn't really work for you, but it works for everybody. You just get the armor from being Warrior's Fury on. Now this is what does work for you. Hell's Anger. It increases critical attack damage by 25%. That's like extra valor, bruh. It also gives you critical attack chance by 10%. That's like extra proficiency, right? For anybody who's affected by this. This includes you and your teammates. In your assault, take Thunderstorm. This will give you 3 charges of your deity blast. This is when you're using this heroic, you can hit them 3 times with this. So if you don't apply shock the first time, you got the second and third time to do it. And over here, we made sure we took overexposure so that you get 15% increased normal and stun damage against shock enemies with this attack. So by the 3rd shot, obviously you're going to be able to get this 15% bonus. In your ultimate, take Jotunheim's Tempest. This will give you Bifrost. This will give you cold damage. I know a lot of people like Muspelheim, but this is plasma damage. And since we're using shock and particle, this cold damage is on the same table as your shock. So that when you hit them with the hammer, which is a plasma or particle damage ability, remember the particle damage hammer we have, or for heavy attacks or your signature attack, you're doing more increased bonus damage to them. Lastly here, we're taking Odin's Blessing of the Realm. This will automatically activate Odin Force, put you in overcharge when you return from the Bifrost. So you come down with that bonus and you're ready to go, working in perfect synergy with the other gear pieces. And our mastery is pretty straightforward. You take Heroic Takedown, so you're getting the orb. I took Unarmed, so that when I throw my hammer, I can put them hands on you and still use Odin Force and you'll still hurt. This guy melts people with his bare hands. Range damage specialization out of here is what I took. Because I don't have any precision, as anybody has noticed, this 15% bonus is huge. This is like having like 40 or 50 points of precision right there. In ranged, I took Speed Burst. It seemed like the most viable of the 3, but to each their own. I took Guard Breaker so that any shielded enemies automatically get their shields broken. And I took Critical Throw. Now, this gives me a 20% increased critical attack damage. It's like having more valor. All you have to do is make sure when you throw that hammer to time it just as the little ring fills all the way up. And boom, you hit him with a huge damage. Now, this is all from a person who has no precision. I'm still hitting hard with my hammer throws. For my intrinsic ability, I took dealing damage while Odin Force is active will recover 1.2% of willpower per hit. Again, this works in perfect conjunction with your anchor piece, your All-Father's breastplate. So you're getting a huge health bonus when you hit things. So you'll see as I'm hitting these mobs how I'm getting all my health back. It's great sustain and a must for any Thor build in my opinion. I took Maximum Force to increase the maximum amount of intrinsic Odin Force energy by 15%. This allows you to continue to use your Odin Force. Also a must in my opinion. Finally, I took Asgardian Fortitude. This reduces the intrinsic Odin Force energy penalty incurred when failing to counter against strong or unblockable attacks by 50%. Remember, our other piece has 50% for the same thing. So you're basically like 100%. You're not getting any penalty if you don't block anybody or perfect evade anybody's thing. So this is how you keep yourself sustained the whole way. Finally, we have Intrinsic Overcharge. We're going to use Overcharge. You're going to attacks generate small electrical hazards. So when we're overcharged, you're letting out little shock, right? So this is, again, it's applying shock damage, so you're increasing your damage, tenfold. We're using Charge Resistance. Increase the damage resistance by 50% when Odin Force is overcharged. This is a survivability thing here. When I'm surrounded and I'm overcharged, you're pretty much not going to kill this guy. You know what I'm saying? You'll see with the resilience that I have, it's going to be hard to bring him down. And finally, we have Damage Force. Increases all damage by 15% when Odin Force is overcharged. Again, working in conjunction with the pieces we already have, this is a huge damage bonus. Now, as stated, we're using particle and shock damage. It's like a synergy thing we got going on here. Whenever Thor activates his signature attack and you hold down your Odin Force, he uses particle and he uses electricity. Even if you just hold it down, he'll use particle regardless. So you can shock somebody and still hit him with a ton of particle damage. Now let's go into some mobs and see what this actually looks like in action. So what we're going to do here is we're going to showcase this elite mobs right here and how this build works directly against it. These guys are shooting rockets, and everybody who's even done this knows that these rockets hurt, especially on 10+ level mobs. The beauty of the build is you apply shock damage, apply it twice, and then commence to him with the particle. He interrupted that, but that's okay. He interrupted that. Even if they stop it, you see, they can't deal with it. So my Odin Force is protecting me from most damage. And the other good part is, like I said, I'm using shock and I'm using particle, which is key. So both of them together are providing this peanut butter and jelly synergetic damage. Anytime you want, let go of your big damage. Activating your War's Fury is going to give you even more damage and make you armored. And you see, things are just getting one-shotted at this point. Doesn't really matter what you are. Everything falls. If you can see the damage numbers, it's pretty significant. And anytime I need, just activate my ults or my heroics and commence. And you see how I'm hitting them and my health is just ticking back up like nothing's done. This is that breastplate of the Allfather I was just talking about. It's the clutch piece of this build. It's the clutch piece of any Thor character in my opinion, otherwise you'll die. I've seen a bunch of guys clear whole rooms with one shot, but also seen them die in one shot. And if you're Thor, you're gonna need to be able to, maybe not even main tank, but you gotta be able to off tank. You gotta be able to hold enemies. There's nothing really that's gonna kill you, even plus 10 mobs. You go plus 15, they might be able to get you if you're not paying attention, but for the most part, you'll be fine, generally. The whole key is to keep everything as shocked as possible, which means using your Odin Force, and to make sure that you're hitting things with your Odin Force, your melee attacks. This right here will always heal you, and always keep things dying. Okay, finally, we're going to show this build working in a confined space. Well, not too confined, but in the lab area with intense situation, under intense circumstances here. So, what you want to do, like I said, go ahead and shock everything up as best you can. These mobs, this is the real deal. I make sure I apply shock to them on everything. Activate your War's Fury, right, to give you that bonus damage and crit, and go ahead and put your ult down too. Just make sure everything has all the status effects needed on it. And you just start wrecking stuff. Just start knocking them over. They're tough, they hit hard, they knock you around, but it doesn't matter because guess what? They can't kill you. And all your hits hit like a truck. Everything just falls. You don't care because they soft. There's orbs and everything everywhere if you need them. And again, the beauty of this build is you basically keep intrinsic energy. Takedowns are easy. As you see, signature attack, it's like a truck. Now right now, the Dreadbots aren't even really taking any shock damage. As you can see, he's only really taking pin particle damage. But it doesn't matter, this thing still hits hard. Just keep dropping damage on him. Take any takedowns when you can get them. Like I said, get your heroic orbs back up, rinse and repeat. Room cleared with no issues. This is the build. I hope you enjoyed it.